Hey everybody, how you doing?
Good evening, good evening, good
How are you? How
evening.
are you? How are you? We are so glad to have you on tonight again to our third episode.
Yeah,
Our third episode of the His Voice, Her Vibe podcast. I'm your host, well, one of your hosts, Norris Henderson,
I am Lisa Henderson.
and we're just glad to be here. Welcome everybody. Tonight we're gonna do some real good adult talk about families. But first, we want to read this disclaimer.
Well, first and foremost, we want to remind you that this podcast is all about real talk and personal growth. But remember, we're not giving medical, legal, or psychological advice here. Everything shared is for insight and reflection only. If you're going through something tough, please reach out to a qualified professional who can give you the support you deserve.
That's right. We do not want anything coming to us. We're just here to offer some support and some guidance, and
Have
just some
conversation.
yeah, and just advice that we find has helped us over the
Yeah,
years, and it might help somebody else. So that's how it goes.
yeah.
Anthony Coleman, we see you. What's going on, sir? How you doing?
I also just want to take the time out to say thank you to everybody that keeps coming back every week because we enjoy doing this and we hope that you enjoy watching us engage and interact with each other as well as you all. And so, yeah, thank y'all for
Absolutely,
coming back every week,
absolutely.
especially y'all didn't get a week off this time. Y'all didn't get a week off. We didn't either.
Right. So
But
we're here doing our thing.
we are here doing our thing. So,
So we want you definitely to like, tag, share, and subscribe. We have our Facebook page. We also have our podcast going onto our YouTube channel as well. His Voice, Her Vibe podcast live. We're also on Instagram and we're on TikTok as well. We have pages on those social media platforms. So we want you all to go ahead and blow them up. Run up the numbers. Run up the numbers. Tell people about it. Tell people about the
yeah.
podcast. Tell them about the conversations that we're having and the topics that we're discussing because these are all real life topics. And we just want to make sure that everybody is good. We're trying to be good. If you're good, we're good. If we're good, you're good. Everybody's good.
Yeah.
So we're ready. We're going to talk about family tonight.
Yeah, we're going to talk about family, and we're going to our focus this evening, or one of our focuses will be how you were raised versus who you are now. So, how were you raised? With regard to your in-home life, wherever you want to take this, versus how you are now, and how did, most importantly, how you were raised affect the person you are today? How
Wow.
did it shape you? How did it mold you? And maybe even answer why. And why do you feel that way? Whether it be negative, positive, whatever you wanna share.
Wow. That's deep.
That's rough.
It
And I mean I
definitely
mean,
can be
if we're
rough.
just being honest here, can be somewhat uncomfortable. But, that's what we do. We bring out the uncomfortable, and we start with ourselves, and we bring you in, and we hope that this is a safe space where you can, communicate how you
Absolutely.
feel, what you feel, why you feel that way, and we're gonna do the same. So, Mr. Henderson,
Absolutely.
how were you raised? Give us one thing, I guess, because we could go down some rabbit
Oh,
holes,
we could
but
go. Yes.
if you could name one thing or one certain thing that just when we came up with this topic that you immediately went to with regard to how you were raised and how that shaped you to be who and what you are today.
One of the things that I immediately thought about when we were somewhat discussing what we were going to talk about tonight was, for me, being the only grandchild that was actually raised by grandparents. Um, None of my other cousins or anybody else were raised by my grandmother and grandfather except for me, and so I think the biggest thing that stuck out for me was the spirituality piece. As I mentioned before on another podcast, my grandfather, he was a pastor. He pastored
Okay.
for some years. My grandmother,
Shout out to the PKs.
yeah, my grandmother, she was a church mother. She
Uh-huh.
also, sung in the choir and different things like that, and she did prison ministry as well. And that was something that I actually found out later on in life. And so, the way that I was raised, I believe. was the same way that my mom and my aunts and my uncles were raised. The Henderson family was a family of musicians. And so, they sung and they played instruments and different things like that. And shout out to a lot of the families in Wichita that I know that my family grew up with, that did the same thing. Music was just a huge part of church, especially the Baptist church back then, and it still is today. But, um
And I
go
since
ahead.
you said
Go
it,
ahead.
just shout out to the music industry in Wichita because I think
Yeah.
that there's a large music industry in Wichita that doesn't get its respect, attention, fame, glory, whatever you wanna say. Shout out to the Wichita music industry because we have a lot of very talented individuals, so that's just my little shout out.
Past and present. I
Yes.
mean, if we're being honest, we have had some gospel music and even, secular music icons, to come
Yeah.
from the Wichita area, and I don't think Wichita gets its due, like it should. But going back to what we were talking about, the spirituality piece was huge for me. Jesus, 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 God, God, God. I was in church morning, noon, and night. If I wasn't in the youth activities, I was in the choir, and that was the kids
What you
choir.
know about Baptist Training Union?
Oh, yeah, BTU, you know, um,
Being a sunbeam.
right. We had, our group together, in terms of youth, but then we also had, the breakup where it was young boys and young girls. So shout out to Little Brothers, shout out to Red Circle, 'cause that's what they were called. And we were heavy. We were heavy into it. We were heavy into church. We were heavy into Sunday school, different things like that. So that was one of the things that I think just stuck out to me prevalently, which is probably why I am the way that I am today.
So how would you say that you are today with regard to what you just said, being musically inclined, being raised in the church, being raised by your grandparents mostly? How would you say that that molded you? What does that look like today?
One of the things that, for me is especially being raised by my grandmother, and we've talked about this all the time, is that I'm very domesticated. I'm very domestic. I'm very domestic. So, you
Father, I
know,
thank you
I
because
I
he is.
I would think that the Lord blessed me to be able to wash my own clothes and cook my own food and everything. And I can cook. Don't get it twisted.
And not just your own. And you fold very
I
well,
fold
Mr.
well. I
Henderson.
try to,
You
but I
iron
cook.
very well, Mr.
Yeah,
Henderson.
I tend to think that I'm a decent cook, honestly. Among other things, cleaning and different things like that. So definitely that piece was something that was embedded in me from a young age, and just a plethora, of different things. But I think all of those things encompassed, made me be the person that I am today in terms of, again, my spirituality, my walk with Christ, my relationship with Him, my relationship with people, how I deal with people.
Okay.
Um, you know, um, for the most part, I can pretty much, spot a fraud a mile away. You know, it just kinda really depends, but for the most part, I can spot a fraud a mile away, and, I'm very no nonsense. Anybody that knows me, I'm typically kinda that quiet person unless I know you. If I know you, then I'm somewhat extroverted, I'll laugh and clown and do all of that other stuff, but if I don't know you and I'm there at a function, I'm probably gonna be the person that's sitting and I'm looking because I'm always, like, watching and seeing what's going on around me, seeing how people vibe, seeing how people move, and different things like that. And it's not like a defense type of a thing, but I think for me, it's just more of a, hey, let me just kind of really clock what you own. You know what I'm saying? So that way, if something does pop off, I know how to handle things and how to move. So, lots of different things come from being raised like that for me.
Okay.
Now, how about you?
Ugh. So I had the I was blessed, let's put it that way. I was blessed to be raised, by my parents as well as spend some time with my, grandmother as well as some aunts. Those who don't know my story, I had, parents that had addiction issues, and because of those issues, it oftentimes landed me either back with my grandmother or with close friends or even family. So I had the opportunity, I would say, to be blessed by not only my parents, but by a couple of close others. What I will say, how that molded just that experience by itself, how it molded me into who I am today, I would say that um, I decided at an early age that my kids, should I have children, would never have to bounce around.
Right.
And so
Wow.
I made it a point to always do my part in providing them with stability in the home, which they never had to worry about, where they were going to sleep or what they were going to eat or if the lights were going to be on or we were going to be lighting candles. I mean, addiction causes certain things in the family. Let's just be real.
Right.
um, they weren't gonna have to worry about those things, and most importantly, they never had to worry about if they were gonna wake up and I was gonna be there.
Mm.
And so that helped shape as far as parenthood goes, I would say, that helped shape how I decided what I would not.
Right.
And so did everything I could to ensure that they didn't have those same experiences that I saw at that time to be negative. Now, hindsight's 2020 at almost 50. I just tell my age at almost 50,
You be
y'all.
alright. I'm 53.
At almost
I ain't got no problem
50,
with it.
I look back and I can appreciate some of those experiences
Right.
because it made me be the go-getter that I am. There was no option not to survive or
Right.
not to be successful or no option to allow room for a lot of area in certain aspects of my life, and so I would say that some of those experiences, having to go through those things, shaped the parent and the woman that I wanted to be. Not to say that I didn't have my failures as a parent, but
Right.
I knew that there were certain situations and things that I would not deal with and that my kids would never have to deal with. And I meant that and I kept that promise to both myself and to my kids.
Right. And I can say that I've seen that firsthand. I mean, when we first got together, we talk about just all kind of stuff, you know what I mean? My upbringing, your upbringing, things that I've gone through, things that you've gone through, with your parents, things that I've kind of gone through, not necessarily from my parents, but, being on my own and trying to survive and different things like that. And we used to joke about it all the time, you know. We would, tell our kids, if they kept messing around, we was gonna take them down to Ninth Street, we was gonna drop them off and let them see how it was to really be out there. Because that,
Yeah,
it's a lot of us come from eras and times where we've seen our parents or our grandparents or whoever raised us, they struggle. You didn't really know that you were struggling when you were young.
I thought I was living
Yeah.
my best life, going to my granny's house, catching the bus, getting a transfer
Right.
to go downtown, go to Woolsworth,
Wow.
now get some candy while we was in
Wow,
Woolworths,
wow, wow,
catch the
wow.
bus from downtown because my grandma couldn't drive. I mean, we didn't know that we were at a disadvantage. She
Right,
just couldn't drive, but we
right,
had the bus. Funnest days of my life.
right.
So catch the bus from downtown, go to Town East and get a cone at McDonald's. You remember McDonald's was right there.
Right
The
there,
bus
right at
let
the
you off in the
entrance.
front and
Yeah,
there was McDonald's.
right at the entrance.
Get you a cone, and if you was lucky, she would swipe that Penny's card for some underwear or a new white bra. We thought we had it going on.
Oh,
Cause them
no.
grandmas didn't play. You were gonna have a foundation that you needed, panties, bra, and socks.
Right.
If you didn't have nothing else, you was gonna have that. So, yeah, we were struggling, but we didn't even know we were struggling. We were in the
Wow.
hood, but didn't really know we were in the hood. We were poor and really didn't know that we were poor,
Right,
but poor in whose mind? Now that I'm old enough to get it, we were very rich
right.
in the things that mattered.
And that's the thing, you didn't have a whole lot of money, but, in a lot of the households, you had love. And in a
Yeah.
lot of the neighborhoods, I can run it down, the Fearsons, the, Sims, the Hills, and the Logans, and the Savages, and Mr. Backus, and all of these different people that were in our neighborhoods that, you know, if one of us was cutting up, literally anybody on
Were you
that
gonna get a
block.
whooping and then go home
Yeah, and you was
and get
gonna get
another
another
one?
one. You were gonna get another one. And, it was to a point because they I think parenting then as opposed to now, I mean, was vastly different. They wasn't getting ready to beat you, you know what I'm saying? But they just wanted to
Yeah, that
discipline you
wasn't a
and make
concern.
sure that you were
You
good.
were going to be corrected.
Right, right, and they did it in love, and so, that's kind of the era, that I came from, and just like you were saying, if you could get a Penny's, car swipe or Henry's, because Henry's was the spot.
Henry's was
And my
yes.
grandmother, she loved Henry's. And I would tell you all the time, when it come to me growing up, I didn't have the flies joints. I did not have that. I had me some Payless kicks for real, you know what I'm saying? And whatever, when I was in elementary, tough skin jeans and whatever shirt, all the way up until what my junior year of high school when I actually went and I did some summer work and I was able to buy my clothes actually for my senior year.
Mhm.
But I didn't have all of that,
Right.
and but even with not having all of that, it still didn't make me feel like, oh, I'm just this poor, destitute, cat, from 16th and Chautauqua. You know what I'm saying? I didn't feel like that. At the end of the day, I had my people, that was in my neighborhood, my friends, you know what I'm saying? And we would just go and we would ride and we would do what we would do.
So you said something that kinda struck me, made me it kinda tugged at my heart. So you said that you did you say Pro Wings and
Oh yeah.
Toughies?
Tough skins. Tough
Now I don't know
skin
nothing about
jeans.
tough skin jeans,
I'll
but
never forget them mugs.
but how did not having what others had make you feel then, and how does that make you feel now?
Then now, in high school, elementary, middle school, it wasn't really a problem. Even when I went, to Southeast my first year and a half of high school, it wasn't a problem because everybody that I grew up with went to school with me. So they already knew what the situation was. My grandmother was one of them type of people. Hey, I'm not really concerned. You'll get some new clothes for school, but when it come to church, bro,
Oh, so she spent a bag on your church
she gonna
clothes.
spend a she gonna go to Henry's and she gonna run up that card. I'm gonna have me a cool little two-piece suit, three-piece suit with a little
But for
butterfly
school, were you going to Walmart? Well, it wasn't a
It wasn't
Walmart, it
even a
was Target and
Walmart then. Yeah, I
TG&Y.
mean, yeah, it's like TG&Y Kmart. You
Okay.
know what I'm saying? And there were times in my high school years, once I left Southeast, that actually, no, I take that back. Even at Southeast, where, I experienced, I guess, what we would call like bullying now, where you would have some that would, try to rank on me because of what, my clothes or whatever the case. And at the time, you know, I would say that I felt, like, well, dang, like this is what I know. You know
Right,
what I'm saying? I didn't have the
right.
cool, Brooks high tops or, Nike high tops or nothing like that. But I mean, I wasn't just ran down either,
Mhm.
but all the name brands, I didn't have. And so there would be a lot of times where people would, and very, very few. There's, a couple that come to mind, that will say different things. And then once I actually left there, and I went to, the high school I graduated from, Northwest, yeah, high school, Grizzlies. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, when I got there, that was the turning point. Even though I didn't have a whole lot of what, a lot of the people had, it was just something about that place and the people that were there that did something to me. And it was more of an acceptance. I could go in there, we talk about it all the time. I was one of them dancing dudes. Like, so I literally like get it in on the dance floor for real.
And he's very proud of that,
I'm
yeah.
very proud of that because I got my dance on for real. And because of that, you know what
Ah.
I'm saying? That gave me a sense of popularity that I had not had. You know what I'm saying?
So that was kind of a shift
That
for
was a
you.
shift for me.
That was
A
what
life
you
altering,
needed.
a life
Mhm.
altering shift.
That confirmed you.
Right, so I would go, cats knew I could dance, so I would get my dance on. That's what, brought girls to me because I could dance, and do all of this old stuff. So it gave me like a sense of popularity and people actually noticed me. It wasn't about the clothes then. It was just about me and me as a person. And so that was then. Hindsight being 2020. Now, as I look upon it, because that's kind of when my fashion sense honestly started to develop. And now looking, back on that, it all worked out for my good. I didn't necessarily know at the time that it was
Mhm.
working for my good, because if we're being honest, when you're dealing with something in the moment that doesn't feel good, that's what you focus on. You
Right.
focus on the feeling of whatever you're dealing with in that moment, not thinking, of the longevity, of what it could be, later on. You're just thinking about, oh, well, right now this cat is talking about me real bad, man, and that kind of jacked me up and hurt my
Mhm.
feelings. You know what I'm saying? But now, looking at myself and my life and the different things that I've dealt with, and then my fashion sense and stuff like that, now when people see me, oh yeah, that's Norris. That cat be clean. He's always been like that. You know what I'm saying? And so it
Mhm.
just things just start to develop over the years. You know what I mean? And I
Mhm.
think that's kind of where my fashion sense came from, and different things like that. And I don't really shout him out like I should, but I'll give Duke a shout out. I give Raymond a shout out, because he actually worked with me. He worked with me and Deron and Quincy and Torrance on our fashion, because he was the suit man. You know what I'm saying? And
He
so
is still the suit
he's
man.
still the
I mean,
suit
like,
man.
if we really wanna get
I
into
mean,
something.
I don't want to give him no
Duke be
credit,
clean.
but Duke, I mean, he really worked with
Yeah.
us, and he taught us how to put things together, and we just, we took it and we ran with it. So, like I said, hindsight being 2020, what was meant for evil,
God turned it around for your good.
yeah, it all worked out for me, and so, yeah, I'm
Wow.
grateful for that.
That's funny that you said that because, just, given that tidbit about, being in a situation as a kid with, parents that have addiction issues,
Right.
there were ebbs and flows where I didn't have everything that I felt like all the other kids had,
Mhm.
minus not having 2 parents in the home, and at one point, they were both in prison. So being not having the things that you see other people have around you and not having to work. I can remember having to work,
Right.
getting out of school, going to my little I think it was Osco Drug is what it was called, right across
Wow.
from Wesley.
Shout out to Oscar Drug.
Shout out to Osco Drug. But going there or even Dairy Queen, my very first job at 14, I think back on what my thoughts then, and my thoughts then were, I either get a job at 14, the only place that would hire me so that I could have just the necessities
Mhm.
because I was living with other people to my kids would never have to worry about this.
Right.
If they choose to have that job, they will never have to worry about the basics
I got you.
in life. So I think having to go through that as a kid, I think that it also created the sense of when I have kids, they're gonna have everything.
Yeah.
And so a lot has been given because I didn't want them to ever feel like they were going without. I didn't want them to ever feel like they didn't have what other kids had or they were less than or that they lacked.
Mhm.
Because I can remember having that feeling.
Right.
I can remember wishing that I had what other kids had. I don't know that I ever necessarily was made fun of because of my dress, but I can remember a period because of stress having bald spots in my hair. You remember those days?
Wow.
Having
Yeah,
bald spots in my
that's true.
hair, being the largest of my crew, being the darkest of my crew. So I can remember those things and having to go through things psychologically,
Mhm.
knowing that or feeling like I was not on equal ground.
Wow.
So, I had all these things against me, but I was determined. The God covering me in the moment, I was going to overcome those challenges that I had and I was never going to repeat them. And so I think that fast forward to now, all those things shaped me to where I raised kids that really didn't have to want for very much.
Right.
The things that they wanted, they pretty much got. I went through phases where shopping was addictive. I still have a little ordering issue, but I wouldn't say it was addiction.
Right.
I went through phases where it became therapy for me because that's what made me feel good.
Wow.
You know, I decided that I needed to get healthy, and I decided that I could not let the trauma, because those things for me were traumas, and I
Right.
couldn't let those traumas continue to affect or shape my life
Right.
anymore. So I think that because of those things, I became a parent that, to a sense, gave my kids some of everything, and I wanted them to have things. We didn't travel a lot
Oh, man.
young kids and, as a child, so when I became a parent, we gonna travel. We're gonna go here, we're gonna go there. My children have gone out the country. They have gone places I had never would have imagined as a kid.
Right.
And so that was always a big part of what I wanted them to be. So I think that as far as parenting, I always wanted to parent better in certain areas than my parents. Now, don't get it twisted. I had the best mama and daddy that you could ever desire.
Right.
They was Bonnie to they Clydes, but they were who they were.
Right.
And I would never change that. But there were areas where I never wanted my kids to repeat those things.
Mhm. And that's important. We I mean, we have so many discussions,
Right.
of different things that we've encountered, in our lives and just, kids and different things like that. And I think for a lot of us, um, especially coming from the old school parents, if that's what you want to call them,
Mhm.
we wanted to make sure that they were good and that they didn't have to repeat a lot of what we had to repeat, but we still wanted to instill old school values in
Right.
them. You know what I mean? Because I mean, if we're just being honest, a lot of these children today, my opinion, I don't think that they would necessarily know how to survive because I don't think that they have the skills, or the skill set to be able, to get out here and really get to it. But I think a lot of that is because now we have a demographic of younger parents. And so because they, were young and they become parents, they didn't really get that full, gamut of growing up and different things like that. They might have gotten, some of the stuff, but with the way that society is and just different things like that, I mean, parenting in a sense has changed dramatically.
I would agree there. I would agree there because, we talk a lot about how parenting isn't what it used to be.
Right.
And we have to be careful with saying that the kids these days are soft because their issues and the things that they encounter, we didn't have to encounter. So I'm always
That's
mindful
true.
of,
I agree.
I don't think it has to do with being soft or it has to do with being weak. It's just we were raised in a different time and they're raised in a different time. And the struggles that they have, we didn't have.
Right.
And so I always want to make sure that on this podcast, we don't lessen the things that kids go through these days. It's just different and it looks different.
Yeah.
And so, but I will say that I am very proud to have had 3 kids that understood the struggle, even though they didn't encounter
Right.
the struggle, they understood. Very good, school ethic, very good extracurricular ethic when it comes to the things that they're involved in. Very good,
Work
work
ethic is
ethic because
crazy.
they gonna go get their money.
They want their money,
They
man.
they're gonna go do
Get my
that,
money,
and those
man.
were just things that I didn't push or force upon them. They just desired to do that,
Right.
and so I just think that, parenting was one thing. Now, I also, if we wanna talk about how did things you talked about religion and going to church
Oh yeah.
and that sort of
That
thing.
was a
Now,
must.
I remember we had to go back to church, to
Yeah.
Baptist Training Union on Sundays, and so we didn't have children's church, so we had to sit in church with our parents or grandparents and you didn't go to sleep.
Right.
You didn't go to
You get
sleep, you
popped.
didn't have a
Pow.
phone, you didn't have a tablet, you didn't have any of that.
Right.
You were gonna sit there and look like you understood at 2, 3, and 5 what the preacher was saying.
That's the truth.
So, I will say that growing up with in that richness
Mhm.
of being parented was a blessing because I think it allowed me to get a foundation of whom I could trust and depend on, and meaning God, and
Right.
and the word. And so I think that I, in turn, use that,
Mhm.
through my college days and the
Absolutely.
struggles and some of the things I've gone through. So shout out to all the people at Greater St. Mary's where I grew up, originally in church,
Right.
for that foundation, because I do think that today's society, we have some mothers of the church, but they are nowhere like it used to be. It looks different.
Yeah,
It
it
looks different.
definitely
And
looks
again,
different.
no knock to any of the mothers nowadays, but it looks different.
Right.
It looks different, and how we approach church
So
is very
so let's just hit a couple of these comments and we'll go back into
okay.
this discussion. So we have Anthony Coleman here who says not having during high school like junior high and high school, like the other kids, made us all feel some type of way. And I would totally have to agree with him on that one. My cousin, I'm not gonna put hers up. She was talking about the only cousin that she had that could wear white all day, and she talking about me because anybody that knows me, I'm synonymous with white shoes and keeping those mugs good and clean.
Yeah.
So that's just what it is. Butterfly 25 Brown says from YouTube. Shout out to our YouTube audience. Seeing the bad and the good of my parents in the home. I snatched what
What fit?
yeah, I snatched what fit and left what wasn't. Trial and error of my DNA and learned behaviors taught me what my parents couldn't. God's
Mm,
salvation equals me today. Ooh, them
that's
some
huge
little letters.
there.
That's major.
Learned behaviors taught me
Oh
what
my
my
God.
parents couldn't.
Oh my God. Okay. See, I wasn't gonna go here, but I'm gonna go here. I can remember in the home when I was coming up, and this is something that I mentioned on a pod before, especially when it came to the black family. We were in that type of an environment, and I'm not saying this is what happened in my house, but we lived in that type of an environment and in that type of a time where what happened in this house stayed in this house. And going back to what she was talking about with the learned behavior, I think that that was major
Mhm.
because, if we had a situation that arose within the family, you know what I'm saying, that wasn't favorable, what you wasn't gonna do is you wasn't getting ready to let that thing leak out and have our family looking crazy.
What goes on in my house stays in my
And
house.
that's what I'm saying. That was the era that we
Now
came
we
up
could take a
in.
whole lot down that rabbit hole.
And while that may have been, a good thing in some instances, I think it was a bad thing in other instances. But things happen
They do.
in families, and in the black family that we don't like to talk about. But the truth of the matter is that they do happen.
They do.
And because of that, I think what has happened is that it's put a lot of people in a position now in their adult life, and I'm not going down a rabbit hole, but I think it's put people now in a position in their adult life, some people, that to now where as an adult, they're a wounded functioning adult because they never healed from it.
Because they couldn't talk about it.
There you go. You better not say nothing.
Now, going back to my parents, that is one thing that I've always been very, very proud of. We were always taught, myself and my brothers, that right, wrong, indifferent, as long as you tell the truth,
Right.
they could help you. So we were always taught to communicate, and that my parents were open to listen to us, and that, even if you were wrong, tell me you were wrong and we can go and try to help you out of it and we can help you fix it. But if you lie, I can't help you. And so I always
Mm,
wanted to be like them in the respect that I always want my children. I always wanted them to be able to come and talk to me about anything.
right.
Now that they are 24, 22, and 19,
Yeah.
sometimes I don't wanna hear what they have to tell me, but I appreciate the fact that they do share. I appreciate the fact that they feel comfortable enough to come and tell me about their life and what they
Hmm.
got going on in their life and who's in their life and so forth and so on. So I appreciate and I value the fact that my parents were always open to listen, They made it clear they weren't our friend, but they
Right.
were our best friends,
Right. Right.
so they were always able to relate. They never got out of the bubble where they no longer could relate and could not be honest and open and listen and converse with us. And so some of our biggest lessons as kids, as adults, were through conversation
Mhm.
with
Mhm.
our parents.
Yeah.
And so I commend them for that, and I hope my kids feel the same way. I hope that our children feel the same way, that they can come and talk to us like my parents did.
Well, I think they do feel like that, just based off
Good.
conversations that we have all, had together and, conversations that we have had, individually, as parents. I feel like they have that confidence in us that, hey, I can bring this to pop. So I could take this to mom. And they're gonna give me the real deal about it. Now,
They should.
I mean, I think I won't say that. I was getting ready to say I think I might be a little bit more harsh than you in terms of certain things when it
It
comes to
depends on what it
conversations.
is.
Yeah, because what I never want them to do is I never want them to feel as though, you know, as parents we didn't keep it real with them. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of times in parenting we just kind of sugarcoat and fluff, things just to, oh, we don't want to sound, but no, and I'm not saying you just have to be just the most vulgar, you know what I'm saying? But give it to them straight, you know what
Yeah,
I
I
mean?
agree there. I
Because
agree.
I don't want there to be any type of a situation where you feel like, if you come to me and you talk to me and that there's room for misinterpretation. No, this is what it is. This is what it is. These are the things that 9 times out of 10 you're going to be faced with. Be prepared to deal with whatever choice you make because at the end of the day, this is your life.
Yeah.
It's your life.
And we're in the coaching phase now.
Absolutely.
Thank God. We are coaching now from the sideline. And I appreciate the fact that they allow us to coach them,
Right.
meaning that now the play they run is on them,
Yeah.
but we're gonna coach them from the sidelines. You got something in comment?
Yeah. So Denise Daniels says this. That's true, Lisa. I had that very conversation with my grandsons last night. They were very transparent with me last night, and it brought me to tears. Just explaining to me the struggles they have growing up in this time. To try in a world where there's so much violence and losing so many of their friends to gun violence, so many that they can't even cry anymore. And man, that
Yeah.
right there, that comment says a mouthful. We have talked about just here recently, just the amount of violence that we have seen, back in Wichita.
And it's become the norm for these kids, Denise. I think that, looking back from when we were raised, it wasn't the norm.
Right.
It wasn't the norm. And we were raised kind of in the onset of gangs and
Oh
people
yeah.
getting killed and things of that nature, but we never grew numb to it. It didn't happen so much to where we were numb to it. And the situations that these kids are encountering and the amount of trauma that they're
Yeah.
encountering with the deaths of friends and classmates and people they know is it's heartbreaking. It's troubling, but Denise, I commend you for allowing them the safe space, especially as young men, to be able to share with you how they feel because that is so important
That's vitally important, especially for young black men, young men that are, you know,
to be vulnerable like
right,
that.
and coming into a place to, they're entering into, young adulthood and different things like that. They have to have an outlet. They have to have some type of a space where they can actually talk to somebody and be able to not just express themselves, but also be able to get um, you know, feedback that is going to help them to be able to matriculate through life. Because a lot of us, if we're being honest, I, I thank God for the associate ministers that I grew up under at New Zion. Shout out to New Zion Missionary Baptist Church. I mean, I know there's no longer, but shout out to them because I mean they were there, and I mean, a lot of those associate ministers that I grew up under, Kevin Scott, Willie Walker, Buford Walker. God, I mean, there's so many of Raymond Davis Sr., somebody that I talk to even to this day that I call pops. And so many of them, those men, they were so instrumental in my life. My grandfather was bedridden. And so even though he would, talk to us and stuff, he really didn't get out of the bed much. Being a war vet, I think some of the stuff that happened to him,
Shout out to all our
yeah,
veterans.
it ended up, working against him in terms of his health. But, those brothers, they took us under our wing, as young dudes without father figures. And I mean, really taught us the game and were very transparent. Hey, man, these are the things that I messed up on, man. I mean, from work to women. And, and that helped. It
That is
helped tremendously. It
necessary.
helped
That is
tremendously.
necessary. Men, women, share those experiences with the young people around you. The good, the bad, and the ugly. They get more from that than they do anything else. So while you check on the comments, I'm gonna just give you our audience a couple of areas that are known areas that people tend to want to change when they become adults. And that would be parenting styles, the emotional support or the lack of when they were kids, the education emphasis, cultural exposure, mental health awareness, values and beliefs, work life balance, communication practices, financial habits, and setting boundaries.
Mm.
So, number 9, touched. But I'm gonna let you go ahead and read that comment, and then we'll go through what number 9
So
was.
we're gonna read this comment by Stephen Massey. He says the awesome part about this part of life is the sideline coaching phase. Having gone through some of life's challenges, but making it and now trying to assist in the challenge for them. Absolutely.
So number 9 that was stated as one of the top areas where people want to change their life when they become adults is financial habits.
Ooh.
It says many look to break cycles of financial insecurity by emphasizing financial literacy and responsibility from a young age. Wow. So, we've talked,
Oh yeah.
and so that is an area that was challenging for me becoming an adult. As a child, I always felt like I had to learn to survive. We were
Yes.
always in survival
Survival
mode.
mode.
I don't know if y'all know anything about boiling water because
To
the
take a
gas is
bath. To
off, or
take a
lighting a
bath.
candle
Man.
because the electricity is off. But I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Those are situations that I'm not ashamed of. Now would have been then.
Right.
Don't, girl, you can't come over.
Right.
But now it made me who I am today. My point in saying all of that is financial stability. Saving, I was not taught to save as a child.
Me either.
We didn't have anything to save. So I wasn't taught to save. I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know that it was important to set something back. I was just trying to survive in the moment.
Man.
And so I think when I became an adult, I didn't have that financial literacy to know that it's gonna matter
Right.
in the long run. It was, "Oh, I'm gonna save enough to go buy that Dooney& or that whatever pair of
What in the
jeans
world?
and baby fats or whatever was out then." That's what I was saving for,
Right.
was for the next cute thing versus having the mental capacity to know that a rainy day is gonna come and you may need something tucked away. And so I have tried my best to, one, learn to save, learn to tuck something back,
Mhm.
and the importance of maintaining, establishing, and keeping a nice credit score.
Yeah.
Now, life has life and things have happened, but I've made it a point to encourage my kids
Yeah.
the importance of financial stability, the importance of paying things on time, the importance of saving a little bit of something in what you have, and the importance of keeping good credit and like I said, paying your bills on time because all of those things, they matter. And I don't think that I know that I didn't understand
Right.
the importance of that at 19, 22, and 24 like I do now at almost 50.
Right.
And so I would say that that was one thing that I would relate to not knowing and not understanding and not being taught at a young age versus how I am now and wanting to teach that to my children and the young people that are around me.
Yeah, and me too, cause she be getting on me. She
How
she
important
yeah,
retirement and
she be getting
401k.
on me for real.
When you start getting older, y'all know certain things just hit differently and it becomes that much more important. And with the way our world and our economy is, y'all better tuck something extra in that 401k and them stocks and the things that you're investing in because Social Security that
R
we paid into
right.
for 30, 40, 50 years may not be there when we come to receive it.
And that's a tragic thing, I mean, we don't wanna go down a rabbit hole of how, the world is in this day and time, but it's definitely something that, you should pay attention to and, that you should, really look into because like she said, I mean, there's so many different things that's going on in this world now. I mean, and everything is just upside down and topsy-turvy. We don't know, what's what, who's doing what, and all of these different things. Let's see, we have a comment. Butterfly 25 Brown says, respect and direct and indirect structure makes a significant difference. And I totally, totally, totally agree with that. Um, Franklin P. Johnson, Patrice says, hey, y'all, I just started aggressively saving in my 403B savings account. And hey, I mean,
It's
like I said,
important.
I'm being gotten on about that myself because I mean, and it is important. But to your credit, for me, surviving, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying,
Yeah.
and having enough to be able to make sure that the bills is paid and everything else. I don't want to have nothing else coming out my
We
check,
have to
but
we
you
have to
know,
break those generational
yeah,
and psychological curses.
yeah,
And we've had to kind of navigate that together,
hmm,
learning to channel that energy from survival to living.
right. I agree.
And when you've been raised or you've had to live a life of survival, it's very hard to turn that switch off.
Survival and living in a season of homelessness.
Mm.
And for me, that was major. I mean, I say that me and my wife talk all the time because we really do talk all the time. I'm not just saying that, or when I say, hey, we talked about because literally this is what we do. We sit around and we have discussions about just all kinds of things that happen in our life, things that we've seen, things that we've dealt with, things that we've been working on the inner person, and just things like, just all of that. And for that, phase of my life for me, that was major, you know?
So, how did being homeless help you see the better part of who Norris is now? How did being homeless mold you?
Well, one, it put me in a position to where I really and I've told you this before, where I had to figure out who God was on my own. I mentioned this in another pod that when I went through that season, he didn't just become, he wasn't just, my grandma's God. He wasn't just my grandpa's God. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't just the God of, Reverend Williams, who preached to us every Sunday, and different people like that I've, had the pleasure of hearing in ministry over the years. But he became very, very real to me. And people can say whatever they want to say about what they've been taught and all of this other, stuff that we hear and we've heard over the years, the white man's religion and all. And I get all of that. Don't get me wrong. I believe that there were some things that did happen? Absolutely positively. Just based off my, studies, where they kind of utilize that stuff for real to, enslave us and to trick us into a lot of things. But one thing that nobody can ever take away from me, and I'll stand on it until the day I die, is my experience. Nobody can take that from me.
Mhm.
And I know what it was when I was there and I had snot and tears running down my face. And I was doing the only thing that I knew to do, and that was call on him. And when I did that, I mean, just the immediate response,
Mhm.
that things, started to take on and happen, within my life. So I think that what that experience did is I've always been, I feel, a person of compassion. I feel, um, I don't cry easily, but I do cry depending on what the situation is. But there are a lot of things that touch me that I may not necessarily on the outward, side, show the emotion too. But I mean, it's like just disheartening and damaging on the inside.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so for me, that I think that situation, what is it? It showed me, really, what it is to be compassionate. It showed me what it is to be vulnerable. It showed me what it is to have a heart for humans and mankind. I mean, if you really think about it, you've been there and
Mhm.
you've seen me literally.
Mhm.
We ride up on somebody that's out there and that's homeless. Hey, what you need?
What you have, you give. Yeah.
Because it's it's different seeing it, but then being there is a whole total.
Living it is a whole
It
different
gives you
ballgame.
a whole different perspective,
Right.
and so not just on the piece of homelessness, but just humanity in general. I'm a lot more slow to speak on certain things now because going through that situation allowed my eyes to be open to some real hard truths about this world that had that not happened, I probably my eyes wouldn't have been open to, because I'm just going through life. But
Mhm.
it definitely made me a better person. I would say that 100, and 10%. It made me a better person. It really made me look at people for who they really are. And I mean, all of us, we've had those moments where we, seen somebody and we might have ribbed them, or said something bad about them, if their hair was jacked up or something like that. But, when it comes to just that real hard, stuff, it really just makes me look at people. I wonder what they're going through. I wonder what they're thinking. In my mind, man, I wish I could just, set up something to, feed, a good 5, 6, 7, 10,000 people, and they be
Yeah.
good, housing, you know what I'm saying? Because while we sending, billions and billions of dollars overseas to help all of these other countries, from America, that are not Americans, you know what I'm saying? America
We
has
got people starving right here
they
at
have
home.
a very, very vast homeless, issue.
Mhm.
And, I could go down, that's a whole discussion within itself. But yeah, it just makes me think of stuff like
And
that.
you have several comments because I see them coming up, but
Oh my God.
while you're touching on those comments, you said something that made me think back on how you feel in the moment, how
Yeah.
as in our younger years or our molding years or how we were raised and then some of the things that we've gone through, how you feel or you're made to feel, maybe not for you, but for me, less than, or not as important, or not seen, or not validated. And you knew it in the moment,
Mhm.
but it's funny that when you mature and you heal and you no longer carry a lot of those traumas that you did, when you were in your formative being raised years, you are such a different person.
Absolutely.
I walk in confidence, and I'm very confident about who and what I am. And it took years of getting there. And I say this
Years.
on our podcast intentionally. It
Years.
took years and
Yeah.
it took therapy for me to be and to get to this healthy place that I am now. And one thing I will say about being and arriving There's nothing and nobody that's ever gonna take me back.
Right. That's a whole word. That's a bar. That's a bar.
And, I say this and mean it a hundredfold. And, we've talked about it. The kids and I have talked. I love you.
Right.
I love our children, but not even y'all can take me back to the low place that I once was as a child, as a kid, feeling less than, feeling not good enough, all those things because now that I'm healed as a grown woman, as
Right.
an adult, I've decided I like it here.
And if you
I
love
like
me
the least I
yeah,
am.
and if you love me for real, you're not gonna aid in trying to take me back. You're gonna aid in pushing me forward. And
On to
that's
the
what we're gonna do.
comments.
Now Imma read a few of these comments because you're right, we have several. Stephen Massey says, "Bruh, take note, but taking $10 to the side and making right decisions on do you really need that in your survival mode? What's that really look like?
Yeah.
What y'all think?" Oh, yeah. I mean, been there, done that, and totally understanding that. Carla says, "Until you experience God for yourself," with the raised hand emoji. Latanya Atkins says, "Life will continue to life, and the importance of financial stability will definitely make it easier, especially during those rough times. I'm now a grandmother and teaching my grandkids the importance of self financial
Yes.
security."
Yes.
Anthony, I mean, we got a lot. I'm sorry, y'all. Anthony says, "I've woken up mornings in tears from being blessed from all the trials and tribulations I've been through. He'll make a way. Just be strong and
Ooh.
have patience."
Y'all gonna have me crying. I've been
And
fighting
man,
'em.
listen,
I think you had an there I think Angelina Jones, I saw from afar, I think she had a
uh,
comment as well.
yeah, she says, "Hey, sorry guys, I'm
Y'all
late.
gonna have me crying
I
on
was
here because
running
y'all
my
know
mouth on the
I'm
phone with my Gina." Or her Gina
tough,
says, "Hi, Norris.
but
Tell
look
tell
here,
Gina I said hey."
this is real talk, you hear me?
Yeah,
And it when God delivers you from not supposing to be anything, the way you were raised. I was raised by crackheads, that's what we would call them now. I
yeah,
was raised by crackheads that were supposed to remain crackheads. Thank God they were delivered, before they left this earth. But hey, I was only supposed to be a crackhead. I was supposed to have a baby at 16 or before, like my mama did.
right,
I was supposed to be all those things. But because of all those experiences, I decided I wanted something different.
right.
But society, and this is for somebody. Society wants you to stay in the broken phases and the broken parts of who you used to be.
Yeah,
They don't
absolutely.
want you to be better, to do better. As our church here in Houston says, live well, live well, and stay
Say well.
well.
Yeah.
They don't want you to get well.
No.
They don't want you to live well. They don't want you to stay well. But you can. You can.
You are
And you don't
supposed to.
have to be what you went through when you were being raised, what you went through when you were a child. You don't have to stay in that place.
You are supposed to, in some people's eyes, be a statistic. You
Yes.
are supposed to be, in some people's eyes, a percent of whatever it is, that statistically speaking, society says that you are based off of the trials and the tests and everything that you have gone through. If that would have been the case for me, honestly, if that would have been the case for me, I probably would not be here in front of this camera talking to y'all right now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and that's just the real truth because a portion of my testimony, some people know, some don't, but they'll get this piece was in my early teens. I tried to get out of here.
Right.
I tried it. This ain't nothing new to my wife, y'all. So this ain't,
Mhm.
she ain't just finding this out. Yeah, I tried to get out of here. I made it my mission based off of depression, um, just the way that I was feeling just about myself, my self-esteem, and so many other things that I made it a mission. I was getting ready to get up out of here. You know what I'm saying? My grandmother and my cousin Carlos is on here, and she just found that out because I don't think I've ever told her that. But She can attest. You know, my grandmother, man, she had a pearl handle chrome 22 that she kept in a safe, in a lockbox in her
And we are
bedroom.
not
We're
promoting
not promoting this at
violence
all. We're not
or
promoting
any
this in no
type
way,
of
shape, or form.
harming yourself.
No. I'm just giving a portion of my testimony that I tried that.
People have those feelings.
Yeah, I tried that. Thank God that it didn't work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Um, Definitely don't try it. Seek help.
Yes,
We
I
didn't
think the
have that.
Wichita area has 411 or 611 that you can call if
Yeah,
anybody is struggling in those type of mental, issues or
right.
mental ways and, or you just need help, resources, whatever it may be. 611 or 411 in the
Growing
Wichita
up,
area.
yeah. I mean, when I was growing up, I don't recall any resources. Not saying that they didn't have them,
Mhm.
but I don't recall any resources, that you would be able to call and, have somebody to talk to. But now there's a plethora of resources. So
Right.
many people that you can reach out to. Seek help, seek help, seek help. You don't have to leave here like that.
So Sun So Fire says therapy makes you accept the truth of things instead of the masks and brands exacted by people and expected by people and experiences. She says, "I love it. Broken people are easier to control." And
Oh my
that is a
God.
mouthful right there. Broken people
Oh my
are easy to
gosh.
control. And you do know that when people can't control you, they usually don't want you or don't like you.
True.
So, and that's for the unhealed folks.
True story. And understand this, for the people that are unhealed and they have people that like to play in their face. I preached a message where I was talking about how this man was utilizing this woman um in the Bible, where she would, go out and she would dance and she would do all of this different stuff and she would make money, and he would of course, take most of the money from her or whatever. And one of the points that I made in that particular message is that people love to profit off of another person's dysfunction. People will profit off your dysfunction, and that doesn't even necessarily mean that it's a monetary thing.
Mhm.
People will allow you to look like the fool in front of everybody that you around. All y'all friends, all
And
y'all
they
little
gonna play the
homies,
victim.
all y'all friends, all y'all little homies. You be sitting up here looking like the dumbest thing walking while they all sitting back laughing at you.
Mhm.
And for what? Because it makes them feel some type of way. I think that's the
Right.
reason why, some people, will gain friends that may not look as cool as them or may not dress as sharp as them or, may not look as good as them or whatever, because you don't want somebody to outshine you. So you'll get that person that's a little bit lower than you so that you can, get out there and do what you can do and you can make yourself look good. But it all comes, to a head in the end anyway.
I I agree. Hey, Kim. Kim says she wants it to be sun so far, Kim. I couldn't see the comments. I couldn't see your picture on my phone, so I just went by whatever you had on there. But you know, it's real. It's real,
Absolutely.
and I think what I want people to take away is there's good and there's bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's positives and there are negatives. And I don't even want to say bad or negative, but there are positives and then there are the things that we want to change.
Lessons.
Because change doesn't have to be a negative or a bad thing. But as we grow, because I don't even think it has to go as far back as how you were raised, but as we grow and as we mature and as we live this life,
Right.
there's always opportunity to switch courses. There's always opportunity to learn and to grow and to be better, and that there's absolutely nothing wrong with changing the course.
Absolutely.
Absolutely nothing wrong with changing the course, and I think we owe it to ourselves, we owe it to our family
Right.
to break cycles that are not healthy. Break cycles that are not healthy.
Oh my gosh.
If we don't change or break those cycles, who will?
Gen- Cycles perpetuate generations. So sometimes you just have to look at what has happened within your bloodline and decide that you are not going to allow that thing to fester anymore. Literally what you just said. There are things that have happened in all of our bloodlines that has not been all good, and generationally, a lot of these spirits have, they've just kinda continued to perpetuate and do what they do and everything else, but be that curse breaker, be that cycle breaker. There's nothing wrong with that, because at the end of the day, lineages behind you are gonna have to deal with that. And I
Yeah.
and I think for a lot of us, we're dealing with a lot of giants and demons that, weren't enslaved before us, because, those that came before us in our bloodlines, they probably did not have the capability of being able to do it. But there's a giant in you.
Oh, yeah.
There's a giant in you. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
And you have all of the capabilities of being able to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Slaying that mug, and leaving a lineage for those that are behind you, your children and your children's children, which, biblically we supposed to leave an inheritance. We always equate leaving an inheritance to money. And I believe that that's part of it, but I also believe that, a part of leaving an inheritance for our children and our children's children is giving them a better understanding of life. Is giving them, the abilities to not have to deal with some of the demonic influences and things that we have had to deal with as well.
So Kimberly Page says people who don't know themselves and approach most situations through the lens of their trauma will go to no end to dim your light. I agree.
Absolutely.
When you have your own sensing of knowing, when you have your own sense of knowing, have some strict boundaries for foolishness. I'm gonna repeat that part.
Boundaries.
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 Have strict boundaries for foolishness and absolutely break those generational curses. Know thyself. It's hard to break generational curses, but it's possible, and it's a firm decision. So I agree 100% because
I'm with that.
breaking generational curses, being the change, doing something different, sometimes means you're in that space by yourself. And when you're by
Ooh-wee.
yourself, it's very
It's
hard and
hard.
it's lonely, and others may not understand, but I will say that it's definitely worth breaking.
Absolutely.
It's definitely worth breaking, and I think it's definitely worth talking about. Speaking of generational curses, there is a curse of addiction that runs on both my mother and my father's side, and I've always been very open
That's true.
and honest with our children about they don't have the opportunity to allow themselves to try and test everything out and wanna have it on a consistent basis because that demon of addiction
Gotta be careful.
runs deep. And so I've always been very careful, very honest in explaining to them the importance of not being those individuals that can try any and everything
Right.
because addictive tendencies will continue generational curse.
Wow.
So we have to be careful. We have to be honest. We talk and encourage all the time on this podcast about communication and being honest and having those conversations. And so this is just another area
Yeah.
that is very important when it comes to families and traditions and beliefs. Have those conversations. Tell your children, tell your grandchildren about their great grandmothers, their great grandfathers, the things that,
Yeah.
they've gone through in
Yeah.
life. Let them learn through some of your experiences. But we've got to. uh, 80 Manny, you said it 100%. I just saw your comment. We have got to break the generational curse.
It's a must. It's a must.
We've got to do it. And everybody has a part in breaking it. It's
Yes.
not just, the parents' job. We got to add the aunties, the uncles, the cousins, everybody. You know, w- it's we all have a duty
Yeah.
to play a part in breaking those generational curses. It's important.
We have a duty and a
Yes.
responsibility.
Yes.
We have a duty and a responsibility to be able to do that. I'm gonna read this one comment, and we're gonna probably go ahead and wind up for the night. Sophie Washington says, therapy worked best for me when I felt safe and vulnerable enough to put it all on the table. It changed my life.
Now that is so true because therapy is not going to do you no good if you're not going to be honest. If you're not gonna be honest, don't go to therapy. You're not ready.
Right.
When you do decide to go, the first thing you should know is you will benefit by putting it all on the table. You will benefit by being honest. You will benefit by being vulnerable. Very, very good comment. Much needed too. Because therapy does you no good if you're not gonna be honest. It does you no good if you're not
Man.
gonna lay it all on the table.
And with that said,
You had one comment just pop up.
ooh, oh, hold on. We got one more comment uh, from Patrice. She says, so many of us come from families where secrets dominate the family. It's hard to break curses when there are so many secrets. And we're going to actually, that's going to be another topic that we're going to
Family
discuss.
secret.
We are going to discuss that. Yeah, we are going to
Mm.
discuss family secrets because I believe that just that comment alone is there's so much truth to it. It definitely is hard when you have family secrets, to break those curses and things like that. But it's not impossible.
Ooh.
It's not impossible. It's not impossible to break them. Because sometimes, man, you just got to go beyond the secret.
You have to be willing to do the work.
You got to go beyond the secret. But I
Do the
totally
work. Be
agree
uncomfortable. Be honest.
because it is a very uncomfortable situation. And so I agree with that, Patrice. Other than that, we want to thank everybody for tuning in to the His Voice, Her Vibe podcast, episode 3, where we talked about families on tonight. I hope you guys were encouraged. I hope you got something out of what it is that we discussed on tonight. We want to thank everybody for their comments. Thank
Thank
everybody
y'all so much for
for
coming.
tuning in and
Yeah.
just doing, just being a part of the, His Voice, Her Vibe family. We appreciate y'all so much.
Our next podcast is scheduled for September
The
23rd.
the 23rd.
Yeah. September 23rd. That's Sunday, September 23rd. Get the word out. 7 p.m. You can catch us on all of our platforms. We'll have some discussion about our next topic within the
Right.
next week or so. And hey, we enjoy doing what we do, but we couldn't do it without you guys. And so we love and appreciate you guys for all your support, for coming back, for engaging with us and making this a conversation that we have. Not just our thoughts, but your thoughts. Not just his voice, not just my vibe, but ours. And so we really want to say thank you and we appreciate you guys joining us.
Yeah. So tune in the 23rd. We're getting back to our regular schedule of second and fourth Sundays.
Yes.
That's why we came on 2 times in a row, this Sunday and last Sunday, but we'll be back on our schedule. And we look forward to seeing you all again. Thank you so much. We couldn't do it without you.
And if you have something that you want to talk about, you have something that you want to discuss, or if you just have a question or something you want us to chime in on privately, please don't hesitate to reach out to us in either our inbox or we also have an email address and it's on our Facebook pages and you can find us on any one of the platforms. But just make sure you reach out to us. Let us know what you want to talk about, what you might want the next topic to be about, or if you just want us to pose a question and you want to be anonymous, we can do that as well
Absolutely.
on our platforms and see what kind of response we get. But until the 23rd, we out of here. We love you guys.
Peace out.
Be blessed.
Be blessed.